we've got such a huge education problem. Just to get to China's level, you're going to need something like $400 to $500 billion a year to invest in education. I'm just talking about factory floor workers. Okay? Forget all the Mera Bacha engineer Agla Bill Gates hai nonsense. You spend $8 billion of public money and $8 billion of private money on education. Where is $16 billion? Where is $500 odd billion? Right? Okay, so one of the things you can then do is to simplify the curriculum, do a scientific study on what do kids actually retain. Swiss had a fantastic education model for their goat herders and things like that, which was, we'll just teach you what's required to make you better goat herders, basic literacy and things like that. And they didn't try to make a goat herder into the next, I don't know, owner of, what's a great Swiss brand? Lindt chocolatier or,
a watchmaker
owner or Rolex ka owner or something like that.
Right.
They just try to make them better goat herds and things like that. Here we have unrealistic expectations, bad investment. We don't invest in education. And you're not even looking at what the output should be. You're trying to... There are people who can be the next Bill Gates that you're bringing down because of your learn by rote system. There are people down here who will never be Bill Gates that you're basically feeding a fake dream to raise them up to this level. You're basically, here you're crushing their hopes. Here you're preventing growth. So either way you look at it, it's a lose-lose model of education. It's one of the trashiest, shittiest models of education you will ever have. In a sense, our education system is borderline, it's child rape. It is child rape in a sense. It's just a different kind of rape. It's mental rape.
That's a strong statement. But you know what? I do not disagree with the fact. I know that you probably studied in India only for a short while. And I think that was in Kashmir, right? I spent most of my time at a Delhi public school. So I can tell you for a matter of fact, like, here is the deal. I think what is unique about me, and I'm just only slightly something that is unique about me, is my mother's insistence that you will not rote learn, you will understand from first principle. And I didn't even know what first principle was. The statement was, "Ratna nahi hai, samajhna hai." And so what would happen is, if I can visualize 3 laws of physics, I can write them in the paper. If I cannot visualize them, then well, go to hell. Like, I cannot do that. And that would incur me a cost when it came to, for instance, before my English board exams, I remember my English teacher walked up to me. She was like, "If you write the way you write, you will not be graded well." And I was like, that is super funny. For writing well, for being more proficient in a language, I'll be graded down. And that is a sad paradox that exists at the core of the Indian education model. There is no denying that to mechanize everything, aisa bhi nahi hai that the teachers are too busy, that they cannot, they're also bored. I have seen it in front of my eyes, teachers doing nothing. It is just that the culture does not exist. And so in that vein of thought, I agree with you that, the leaders are a reflection of the society, that, whatever is happening is at the core a societal, individual, personalized problem and not as much a systematic, architectural framework issue. So to that effect, I also diagnose that your 2 big complaints are, 1, that we need to be more free market. Who are we kidding? And 2, what the hell are you doing about the education system? Am I correct in understanding that?
Yeah. But just to correct one thing, I did study quite a bit in India, in Madras, in Delhi, DPS, by the way, Mathura Road. Actually, not the RK Puram for smart kids, Mathura Road for the dumb kids. Right. But also abroad. And every time, and this was a dichotomy my parents never got, that every time I studied abroad, I was at the top of my class. I was the darling of the teachers because they enjoyed kids who questioned, who wanted to go more, that in the assignment, I would never submit what they had been taught in class in the assignment. I would go do more research and come up with these fantastic things that they didn't expect me to come off with. So I would get, it used to be straight A students throughout. And every time I come back to India, I'd be failing or fail grade.
Right. Oh, that is a large difference.
That's a huge difference. So it was the same with my BCom. With my BCom, I didn't do particularly well. And then I land up in Australia and start doing my international relations. And I'm again top of the class. And they're like, do you want to start teaching?
Right.
So there's something about this, this education system, it's damaging our kids. I don't think parents realize how much it's damaging their kids. But the thing is, we used to have a quality system and a quantity system. When India became independent, we were 10% urban, 90% rural. And the way Indian democracy was mediated, American democracy was 50% to urban areas, 50% to rural areas. In India, it was different. Economic power to these cities, political power to the villages. So even now, it's almost an apartheid system because fewer people in villages actually control more Lok Sabha seats than the greater urban population. We're almost 60% urban technically. It's hidden. Officially, we're 45% urban. Actually, we're about 60% urban because, you have these things like so-called villages within cities. I live in a place called Safdarjung. And there are about 6-7 villages in the middle of Safdarjung. They're not villages, but they're classified as villages or slums or whatever you want to call it. So, there's all these trickery things that happen. Now, the thing was, in cities, you used to have all the fine conversation. Teachers had time to sort of teach you and, put up with your eccentricities and things like that. And remember, I'm 42 now, so I'm talking about the good old days in the 80s when Delhi used to look like Pyongyang in those days. The first thing I landed up in Pyongyang, I was like, oh my God, this is just like Delhi when I was a kid. Yay, there are no cars on the road and, clean air and la-di-da-di-da. But all of that changes in 1991 when you have the economic reforms, which were good. I mean, they were a good thing. Narasimha Rao did more for this country than anybody else before him or after him has ever done. You have this huge migration of about 600 million people to your cities. And what was meant to be the preserve of quality had to then cater to quantity, and everything just dropped. Quality bhi nahi raha, quantity bhi nahi raha. You can't deal, you were never built for that kind of quantity. Quality got destroyed. So right now you just have na ghar ka, na ghat ka, you just have gobar ka.
So tell me, what is very interesting is you said Narasimha Rao did more or less. Usually people are very friendly to credit this to Manmohan Singh. And I'm wondering if you skipped that name on purpose.
Look, what was Manmohan Singh? Do you think Manmohan Singh could have done anything without the political backing of Narasimha Rao? I think all the people who say Manmohan Singh is responsible and not Narasimha Rao are basically trying to, take away credit from Narasimha Rao. Narasimha Rao had a weaker government than anybody before him. And yet he pulled off so much more, including preparations for the nuclear test, which never happened, but they were all kept ready and everything, than any of his successors did. So, I think it's just mean and nasty to take credit away from